Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. Now, today we're going to continue our discussion about the 2018 Self-Publishing Survey, and the aspect of it we're going to focus on today is age. So do older authors make more money or younger authors? Now, in this year's survey, like in 2016, we had a really high proportion of older authors. We had 39.84% of the authors were 60 years or older. But this year, we had 18.75% of the responding authors were under 40 years old. Now, this was different than in 2016, where we had just under 8% of the authors were under 40. So I was really encouraged to see younger authors participating in the survey. I don't think we can automatically assume that more young authors are entering the self-publishing space based on that. I'm just glad to see that more of them were participating in the survey. And in 2016, I really did a lot of outreach to my personal network, which skews a little older. So I think that can explain some of the low participation from young authors the last time. And this year, I did a lot of advertising to 18 years old to 65 plus. So I think that's why we got a better mix of ages of authors. Now, when it comes to income, who makes more? I'm either sad or happy to report that no particular age level makes more than the other. The most popular response for every single age group was $1 to $99 per year. So it doesn't really appear to be that age is much of a factor when it comes to self-publishing income. There was one little bit of a difference for one age level, and that was the age of 50 to 59. Now, tied for the top spot for income was $1 to $99 plus $100 to $499. So those authors aged 50 to 59 were doing just a hair better than everyone else. And you have to wonder, well, why was that happening? And I think one of the reasons that we can attribute to that is that a lot of authors or career people might be transitioning their careers from maybe a corporate setting into more of an independent consultant or coach. And so self-publishing might be a way for them to build that new consulting practice. So we might see more of them being a little more aggressive with their self-publishing in terms of volume and in terms of trying to get sales. So I think we can look at that as a possible reason. Now, if we go back to a couple episodes where we were talking about motivations, the youngest authors and the oldest authors indicated that fulfilling a lifelong dream was their goal or their primary motivation for self-publishing. Now, younger authors might be thinking about it in more of a long-term type goal, but those aged 50 and 60 might be looking at a shorter time horizon and might be more inclined to self-publish because they want to get it done. And with that, this is with the high proportion of older authors in both 2016 and 2018. I think that that's a very plausible explanation for why we see a lot of participation from older authors. But it doesn't appear to be a factor in terms of how much anybody makes per year, because authors can start their self-publishing career at any point. And if they are older authors and they haven't done anything to date, well, they're starting at the same point as someone who's 18 years old. So we don't have that same sort of experience curve that you would have in employment. Self-publishing can be started at any point along your life path. So that might be encouraging to you. Um, or it might be discouraging, especially when we talked about how much anybody makes. No, no particular group is really blowing the doors off in terms of age. And I think we are seeing that parity among the age groups because everybody's starting at a different level. So I did a little bit more analysis on the data just to see, in addition to just looking at the most popular answers across the board, whether age was a factor. So I did regression analysis, and I noticed that age was almost a zero factor. If you know anything about a regression analysis, I was having like a percentage of maybe less than 1% could be of the variability in income levels could be attributed to age. So that means just about nothing. Age is definitely not a factor in what you make for self-published income. So I don't know if you find that encouraging or discouraging, but I think you would hope that you find it informative. And if you found this insight helpful, I would appreciate it if you would wander over to iTunes and give the Heidi Thorne Show a nice rating and review. While you're on iTunes, don't forget to subscribe to the Heidi Thorne Show so that you don't miss one of these episodes on the self-publishing survey, because I think it's important for you to help you make some decisions about your self-publishing career. If you don't listen to podcasts on iTunes, I'm also available on Stitcher and Podbean, and you can also get the podcast video on YouTube. And if you like listening to podcasts on your Alexa device, you can just get the AnyPod skill and get the Heidi Thorne Show through that. If you'd like to check out my self-published books, they are on Amazon. You just go to Amazon, search for my name, Heidi Thorne, and my author page should come up. Everything that I've published is on my author page. And my audiobooks are also available on iTunes Audiobooks and Audible. I would also really, really appreciate it if you would share the Heidi Thorne Show with your friends on social media. If you want to connect with me, my website is simply HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode. And in the meantime, have a great day.